look at people and I wonder all day, who are you and you are not the one in your way. And then I think about myself and I state, I'm a pretty boss with almost your brainwaves. I'm a freak in the sheets, but I got class. I'ma grab an ass if you want it. Best you ever had, give it to you bad. Ooh. Talk about quiet with a big mouth. Listen for the doubt, then call it. Make you out for what you say to me. Look at every single date. If you got what I need, then oh, I'll take you on like a big deal. Legs you can unfeel, key in ignition. Just keep me full like I had a meal once in a while. Feel alright. I know you like it, can't fight it. I'ma let you ride the wave. New York and you're LA, come together, feel the shock waves.
Look left, look right, and I come with a hook right. Hook right, hook right. This what the angles look like. Way up, stood high, taking the view when it look right. And oh, it's the good life, whipping the sauce when I cook like. Look left, look right, yeah, yeah. Come with a hook right. Hook right, hook right, hook right. Make all the man them look twice. I'm way up, stood high, but I've been in the field like Suge Knight. And they know this took time. This what a legacy look like. This what I come with a hook right, and 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 I come with a hook right. Taking the view when it look right. And oh, it's the good life, whipping the sauce when I cook like. Look left, look right, yeah, yeah. Come with a hook right. Hook right, hook right, hook right. Make all the man them look twice. I'm way up, stood high, but I've been in the field like Suge Knight. And they know this took time. This what a legacy look like. This what a and I come with a hook right, and I come with a hook right, and I come with a hook right, and I come with a hook right.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I'm kind of worried. I'm not gonna lie. I know that Skyen already made a video about the whole situation with looking back at the Sentinels of Light thing, and since I have carpal tunnel, aka my wrist decided to say fuck you and not work properly, I had to just step away from my computer and not do anything that can stress me out, like reading, looking back on Sentinels of Light, for example. I'm overall a positive person, you guys. You know I am. I'm trying to, like, you know, to be as open-minded as possible, but when you lie to me, when you gaslight me, when you shit on everything I love and pretend like nothing happened for half a year, I'm sorry, but like no matter what you're gonna tell me afterwards is really gonna help me that much, because I will probably never trust you. Yeah, it's like one thing to like do a mistake and like eventually realize that you fucked up and apologize for it, but it's a whole other thing to like fuck up, keep pushing the narrative that everything is fine, gaslighting you and trying to basically say that everything that you say is not real, and then at the end of it, like, take it all back and be like, yeah, maybe not. Like, that's the gist that I got from what I've seen in the comments so far, because I haven't really gone through the the entire thing yet. But yeah, I'm the type of person who's just like, I don't give second chances really. Because if you fucked up once, you're gonna fuck up again when it comes to like my trust in particular, you know? So I'm really worried about this. I don't want to come off as hateful, spiteful, yada yada, but I am hurt. I'm still hurting. And I will try to be nice and as respectful as possible, but you know. Yeah. Like I'm already looking at it and I'm already not feeling well, especially like, you know, after the Ruined King game, you know, like you're playing the Ruined King game, it's like it's such an amazing experience. Yeah, it's so much fun. And throughout the entire game, you know, learning that the game has been already in production way before the Sentinels of Light event happened, all the research and work that have been put into this game, you know that the Sentinels of Light could have been done well. Like, you did it! On, like, one end of the company, you did it. You didn't have all the characters I wanted you to have, but that's budgeting issues, and we've already spoken about that in the roundtable. I'm sure that if they had more budget, they would have definitely been able to add more characters and expand the world and the story and everything. But unfortunately, they could do what they could with whatever resources they had. And honestly, if I could have gone back in time to like fix the Sentinels of Light or redo the Sentinels of Light, I would have just took that entire project and given it to 𝗏𝗏𝗏. And that's it. Like, here, you care, you do it. So like, it has been done. It has been done on one end of the company, but for some reason, it didn't happen on the other end of the company. So you can't come like I'm already feeling and smelling the gaslight and lies, okay? Because like I'm that fucking scarred. And I'm just predicting that that's what I'm going to be dealing with. So I know that many people would be like, you shouldn't be going into it, you know, negatively, but bitch, shut the fuck up. Alright, so, goodness gracious, let's just jump right into it. If you can't handle everything I'm gonna say, and if you don't know how my personality is, and if you don't like me being honest, then just get the fuck out of here, like now. Because I can already see the comments of like, you know, you're so mean. And it's like, okay, get over it, bye. Alright, so. Should I turn off the music for this? Should we be dramatic? Wait, no, I know what we should be playing. If we're going to be dramatic, let's play our anthem. The only anthem that matters. Okay. Okay. I'm not ready for this. I really don't want to get into it, damn it. But yeah, that's how morbid I feel right now. Okay, so looking back on Sentinels of Light as we reflect on 2021, we want to talk about how learning from Sentinels will help future events. So I'm already predicting that everything that they saying, like that they're basically claiming to like that they have learned is basically stuff that we had all pointed out at the very beginning, and I'm 100% sure have been pointed out before the event even started. You know, like behind closed doors. But because, you know, the management didn't really feel like it, they decided to go a different route. So, yeah. I've made a whole video about that. I have brought all the receipts. So, yeah. Let's just get into it. Hey all! As the year winds down and we reflect back on 2021, we wanted to talk about what we learned from Sentinels of Light event this past summer. We want to own up to the fact that Sentinels missed the mark. Okay, and share how we'll use our learnings to help future big events. Oh, okay, so we are having future big events. Okay, so the entire like drama behind like, oh my god, this was so bad, we're probably going to refrain from doing this again, had been put away. Okay, that's nice. I guess someone's spoken to somebody over there. So, one extremely important note to keep in mind, we're focusing on ЛEAGUEOFC's involvement, not RIOT overall. Okay, fair enough. This is a long one, so here's a summary of our takeaways. Event metagames need to be accessible to regular players, not just super engagers. Alright, pace big events so regular engagers feel like they'll be able to get through the main portion, with big grinds saved as optional challenges for hardcore folks. Okay. Alright. Streamline metagame design so players understand how to access everything. Ensure canon lore in particular is accessible without over-the-top gameplay grinding. And provide ways to access the lore outside the metagame. Okay, so game-wise, I was like, I honestly really didn't care about the game. The fact that we had to grind so much, that I really did care about, and I just couldn't bother. But at the same time, I just want to get to the story. So, you know, I just like grinded like mini games or some shit like that, just like to get through it because I really didn't care about that. Also, I didn't do the OG grinding because like I know that at the beginning it was like ridiculous and like they expected you to play like hours of League, which I don't have, and I just didn't play. At first I was like, I'm not gonna play at all, I'm just gonna wait for somebody to just like upload over their gameplay, but then they changed it and I was like, okay, I guess I can do that. Okay, so that's nice. That's nice that you don't want to force us to grind. Thank you. Maybe you should take that to TFT as well, because Jesus Christ, I just want an emote. Okay, narrative and character tone need to match players' expectations. 𝗬𝗫𝗍 is simultaneous forms of storytelling consistent? Yes. Only incorporate faceless players, stand-in characters when it makes sense rather than by default. Don't bend champion characterization. I don't understand, like, you're learning... It's like the takeaways of this, shouldn't this be like obvious though? Like if you have built a whole world, shouldn't storytelling be consistent? Shouldn't characterization of champions be like solid? Okay. Inclined visual novel, like is this something that you didn't think before you were just before you decided to make the event? Like I'm really confused over here because it's really weird to add it here. Inclined visual novels have scope limitations we need to respect. What do you mean by scope limitations? Use them to add color and detail to our biggest lore beats, or provide specific windows into those stories, but not to deliver massive stories in their entirety. Why wouldn't you be able to tell the whole entirety of the story through it? I mean, it depends on your budget. As someone who literally plays like otome games and like, you know, visual novels, they're amazing. It's an amazing way to share a story and be able to like take part in it. I completely disagree with this. Like, the only limitations here is budgeting and time. If you don't have the time or the money to do like a really good one, then just don't do it. That's it. But again, it's something that you should know before you go into something like this. If you know that you're like, that you have a limit of budgeting and a limit of time to tell a story, then you should probably be prepared for it. Kind of like, I don't know, the Ruined King did? Like, Ruined King did it perfectly. Like, we didn't receive all the characters, but we did get, like, Callista in the notes. We fought Ledros as a boss. We had, like, Yorick in the notes as well, even though we didn't have him in the game, which is, like, extremely painful. But at least we had something, you know? Like, they weren't completely forgotten and thrown to the side. And I honestly, like, I don't mind the fact that they had to do so many cuts to be able to at least, like, flesh out a character like 𝗬𝗂𝗽𝗏, who was the one who created the Shadow Isles, for example. So yeah. All right, let's get into it. I already don't like this. We didn't even go through the first one, man, and I'm already not liking this because all of these are obvious. Like, before you start a massive project on that scale, it's not stuff that you need to take away from something. It's something that should have already been thought about and done, or maybe it was already pointed out and the higher ups decided not to do that because that wasn't their priority, because they didn't care. Because that's exactly how it felt. Like, clearly none of you read the stories, so... It's like, it's not your first time doing an event. Okay, the idea. Sentinels of Light was the culmination of League's first multi-month narrative event, beginning with Ruination at season start. This overall arc was our biggest expression of core and Terra lore in League in ages. We tied together multiple new champion launches, 𝗬𝗀, 𝗬𝗀, 𝗂𝗃, originally Vex before her delay, and released skins depicting champions as they appeared during the events of the story. We also wanted to push further the success of Spirit Blossom's in-client visual novel and character interactions, using them as a way to let players interact with Sentinels during the fight against 𝗬𝗀 and add immersion to the standard event progression experience. You can't compare the two. You can't... I hate that they're comparing Sentinels of Light to Spirit Blossom. Sentinels of Light is not Spirit Blossom. What progression experience? What interaction? Did I ship anyone? Did I like play extra games to be able to like have romantic moments with 𝗏𝗏 again? No. I literally, like, everything was already built in. The entire story was built in. My interaction was built in. It's not like I had choices that I could choose from. There were none. They were like, you know, the generic three lines. And that's about it. So, all right. Okay, let's read. Okay. Event progression rate. With Spirit Blossom in 2020, super high engagers completed all of Spirit Bonds in the first 2 or 3 days and then spent the rest of the event grinding Spirit Petals. For Rise of the Sentinels, we wanted to narrow the story progression gap between hardcore engagers and normal engagers. We designed Rise of Sentinels so progress increased every week, meaning hardcore engagers would still complete the early content faster, but normal engagers would be mostly caught up by the time we reached the finale. We thought this would also be cool thematic representation of Sentinels' momentum rising as they bolstered their ranks. Okay, ultimately we ended up patching the event partway through to greatly increase progression per game played, which removes the impact of deciding which regions to visit first, as well as basing progression around the Sentinels to begin with. On the one hand, this was because we flat out missed on event tuning. Not even the hardcore engagers were progressing at the rates we designed for. On the other end, backloaded progression was a risky choice from the start. Even when tuned well from the event-long perspective, slow progress in the first few weeks can feel demoralizing. Yeah, no shit. Normal engagers in particular can end up feeling like they have no shot at completing the story. Like I said at the beginning, I just didn't play. I just said fuck it. Like, I'm not gonna waste my time. I understand that League needs this like engagement of players and people and interaction with the game and whatnot, but this was like straight up the type of grinding that I wouldn't have done in like early 2008. Like, even during my Grand Chase days, I would have never done that much grinding for a story. Like, bitch, no, definitely not. And it's like, it kind of sounds like, I don't know, it sounds off. Our takeaway is that Spirit Bond's backloaded grind was a better event experience. It didn't really feel like a grind, even though players completed the main portion of the event at radically different times. Faster upfront progress means that if you're playing at a regular pace, you're still immersed in the story and world from the start. You can quickly get a sense of for whether the event interests you, and if it does, feel confident that you'll complete the primary stuff by the end. For both regular engagers and hardcore folks, we also need to be more diligent in our tuning to be absolutely certain players will progress at the intended rate. But again, like, you have already done events like this before. Like, every single time you release a pack, like a monthly something, so you can buy the whole thing, the whole shebang, and then like grind to get items. So you know how much people are willing to grind and for what. So, I mean, the amount of grinding would have made sense if the story was compelling and deep enough and interesting enough for people, like, you know, in other visual novels, but it's just not worth the grind. Like, you didn't do anything for it to actually be worth the grind. I'm like, why? I have like 3 sentences with Lucian, and then you expect me to play 3 hours of League to get another 3 sentences? Not to mention the attitude that I'm getting? Like, I really don't understand this. I really don't understand this. Okay, gating lore behind gameplay. While related to the last topic, this one warrants its own call out. We gated the Rise of Sentinels story behind event progression so you would feel like a part of the fight against 𝗬𝘂𝗽. What fight against 𝗬𝘂𝗽? What progression of the fight against 𝗬𝘂𝗽? No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't do it for me to feel like I'm fighting against 𝗬𝘂𝗽. You did it because you wanted me to engage with the game. Nah, dude. Nah. No. In part because of the harsh event tuning, but also as general outcome of the progression locked design, players had to play more games than usual. What do you mean players had to play more games than usual? You're saying it as if it's like a surprise. Like, oh yes, well, accidentally players had to play more games than usual. Whoops. It's not like we like planned it or anything. It's not like that was the whole point and that's why we had to do all those massive tunings afterwards or anything. I don't know. I feel like they think I'm stupid. I feel like the reason why I'm being so defensive right now is because I'm being treated like an idiot through writing. I don't like the tone of this. Is it just me? I mean, you're not alone. I felt that too. So I'm not the only one who feels that way. You have a right to be defensive. Skyn was kind of the same. mind in his video? Oh. Well. Alright. Let's see what else we've got here. I don't know, I really don't like the tone of this. Our takeaway is that lore should be accessible, especially canon Runeterra lore. Canon Runeterra lore? Isn't canon up to whoever's definition or some shit like that? What is canon? What is canon? What is canon? Didn't we say that canon is not canon? Wait. Now I have to pull this out. Where is it? Should have had it ready. Should have known. No. Nah, man, I'm not feeling this at all. Okay. I have so many folders regarding Sentinels of Light. I'm pretty sure I had like one specific folder that I just pushed into the darkness because I wanted to forget about that ever ever happening. No. Maybe it's in videos. Damn it. Here, let's do something else. Oh, wait. No. Huh. No, that's that. Damn. Okay, no. I can't find my receipts right now. Unfortunate. Should have looked for it before. It's not my download folder either. Like, I have a Sentinels folder, but it's not in it. So I have gameplay and I have everything, but not that. Alright. Huh. Alright, so, yeah, no, the canon thing, I'm not feeling this. The canon thing. Will avoid putting major canonical lore beats behind significant grinds in the future. What is canonical lore? You said that there is no such, that this wasn't canon. But then it was canon, but then it wasn't canon. So... Are we saying that this is canon? Is it? Like, I don't get this. Beats behind significant grinds in the future, and metagames like Rise of the Sentinels won't be the only way to access the lore. What lore? No, now, like... Where am I? I had it in my video, so might as well, you know? I have many receipts in here. No, it's a canon event, not one that has different sides that can win or lose. But then the comics are retelling of this the event through Wild Rift, which is a slightly different version that only includes the champions in Wild Rift, since many champions in the story aren't currently in Wild Rift. The visual novel is the canon story. The CG is a quick cinematic retelling of the 𝗬𝗫𝗍𝗶 chapter. Okay. I think the word canon gets interpreted differently by different people. So what is canon? Reeve, you said it. You said that canon gets interpreted by different people. So what is canon lore? What are we talking about here? Multiple version of the story. This section will be a little tricky since it's about the overall RIOT landscape, but we're only directly speaking to League's PC portion of how the story was told. Rise of the Sentinels is the client and the cinematic on the web. Okay, so we're not talking about Wild Rift or anything else. For a long time, League PC was the only game shipping story content for League Universe. This made it simpler to keep our narrative and storytelling consistent, though even then we had challenges. As League has grown, more teams are telling stories in the League Universe. We didn't put the correct systems in place during the growth to maintain narrative cohesion among all these teams. Okay, yeah, so like the teams were like all over the place. During Sentinels, but who are these teams? Like, wait, who are the teams that we're talking about? We're talking about like narrative, we're talking about like, who are they? During Sentinels, we released 4 versions of the story. Through 1, Rise of the Sentinels, the Ruination Before Dawn, the Absolution cinematics, Wild Rifts Inclined Sentinels HQ, and 4, there's Steadfast Hard Comics. Each of these teams made changes to the story to fit their specific storytelling vehicle. Through, we tried to keep the same core story the same. And for the sake of final clarity, here's the core story. Thresh resurrects 𝗬𝘀𝗀𝗀. 𝗬𝘀𝗀𝗀 attempts to take the piece of his sold soul inside Senna, but Senna and Lucian escape. Lucian and Senna travel across Runeterra, attempting to stop 𝗬𝘀𝗀𝗀 from collecting the other piece of his sold soul. They encounter ruined champions and recruit new sentinels along the journey. Akshan is one of those sentinels. He had been training under his mentor 𝗬𝗀𝗀𝗀, the lost sentinel. 𝗬𝗀𝗀𝗀 was recently murdered by Shuriman Warlord, and when we met Akshan, he was attempting to kill 𝗬𝗀𝗀𝗀's murderer with Absolver to resurrect her. As 𝗬𝘀𝗀𝗀's quest nears completion, the Sentinels take the fight to him in the Shadow Isles. Senna willingly surrenders to 𝗬𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀. Senna willingly surrenders to 𝗬𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀. When did that happen? Senna didn't willingly surrender to 𝗬𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀. What? Okay. Well, Senna didn't willingly surrender to 𝗬𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀. He kind of just like ripped her soul out. Kind of like how he did with Gwen. As the piece of his soul inside her insists it's the only way to save the world. Yeah. Senna dies as 𝗬𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 completes Isolde's soul and resurrects her. Isolde secretly tells Akshan to kill her, resurrecting Senna since the cause of her death was Isolde's soul leaving her body. Resurrecting Senna since the cause of her death was Isolde's soul leaving her body? I get it, but Isolde was already dead. So, like, the cause of death can be resurrected as well. Like, isn't it, like, whoever kills you? Like, it's not that Isolde killed her. And thus she is... You know? I don't get it. So what about the maiden? So, like, is the maiden going to be just, like, what? Because, like, the maiden is, like, the physical form and spirit of Isolde's dark side, so what about the maiden? Technically, the maiden is not supposed to have a soul. It is a soul. It's a spirit. It's a specter, so it's supposed to, like, completely disappear. I don't get this. This part. I didn't get it then, I'm still not getting it now. The Sentinels defeat 𝗂𝘂𝗧. 𝗬𝘀 siphons the souls from the Ruination, gaining enough power to restore his human form and leave the Shadow Isles. Okay, we know how I feel about that one. An example of non-core, but still impactful detail that was changed to fit the medium was 𝗬𝘂𝗽𝗖. 𝗬𝘂𝗽𝗖 was never given a canonical appearance or gender, age, etc. in Rise of Sith Sentinels, so the cinematics team adjusted the story to make sense with it. Okay, hey, nobody gives a fuck about the 𝗬𝘂𝗽𝗖, it's just a 𝗬𝘂𝗽. We're not here for the 𝗬𝘂𝗽, we're here for the champions. The 𝗬𝘂𝗽 can be a rock, it can be a fucking bush, for all I care. I'm just saying, like, you could have also, like, brought one of the other champions to tell this, like, you know, it's like, once upon a time, there was this king, and this is his story. Kind of like how they did with the Harrowing. Remember that old guy who did, like, the puppets? Remember? Know what I'm talking about? Well, I'll show you. Shadow Isles cinematic. Like, honestly, it could have been this dude as well. For real. It was like, here. It's like, yeah, he's just, like, chilling there, like, doing his thing. Oh, you can see his face here, I think. Or not. Or yeah? I don't remember. I've watched it so many times at this point. Yeah, there we go. This guy! We could have used this guy again to tell the story. We didn't even need a 𝗬𝘂𝗽𝗖. But okay, whatever. Like, I'm just saying that, like, 𝗬𝘂𝗽𝗖 is that unimportant, so... Even for those of you who only experienced the League PC content, these adjustments made it unclear which version of the story was the real one, and what the other versions were supposed to be. This led to a poor experience, especially for hardcore lore fans, who were the main players we were building Sentinels for. Were you? Really? Really? Oh my god. I didn't know! I'm so stupid! How could I have not noticed that this entire event was solely made for us lore fans? Yes, that was the only reason why this was made. Oh, it wasn't made to make profit. No. It wasn't made to just throw it out there and just make money off of it without a care in the world. No. I can feel it in my gut. I can feel it in my core. How can you say that when you're literally said that canon gets interpreted differently by different people. How can you say that and then go, who were the main players we were building Sentinels for? You didn't give a fuck about us. You didn't. Remember how you said that you didn't forget 𝗷𝘀𝗫? Remember how 𝗷𝘀𝗫 was supposed to be the one who was supposed to defeat the Ruined King? Remember that? Remember how Callisto was supposed to be the one to bring Viego to the Shadow Isles through the fog? But she was never mentioned, and in fact, in the comic, you just make it seem as if he opened a map and found it himself. So Rengar and Pyke being a comic relief was for our good? It was for us? Am I supposed to thank you? No. Are you honestly, do you think I'm that stupid? Do I look dumb to you? Okay. All right. Our takeaway is that simultaneous forms of storytelling that support the same lore moments need to be consistent, okay, rather than optimized for individual products. Okay, it's alright if one storytelling form can only tell a part of the story due to scope limitations, but that part must be consistent with the whole that's told elsewhere. Yes, but how did you fail to see that before? What made you think that creating 4 different stories, which none of them can be really be called canon, be a good idea, and then have the audacity to claim that it was made for lore fans? When lore is up for interpretation. This is obvious. I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not a huge writer. I'm not why would you do that? It financially doesn't make sense, because that means that you're adding more stuff and putting more work into stuff that make no sense, and then you'll have to fix it because everybody's gonna be confused about it. And the fact that I can say it out loud and figure that on my own, I'm 100% know that there were people who were sitting around that table who said the exact same thing. And somebody decided to say, nah, fam. You didn't care about the lore. You didn't care about the lore. I don't like the fact that they're trying to make it sound as if oh my god, why am I listening? Oh, it's Endless Starlight. Right. Oh my god. I just really hope I'm not gonna get screwed by that. You didn't care about the lore when you were writing it. You did this because you wanted to have a new version of whatever. You wanted to be X-Men meets Avengers. That's your words. That's what you wanted to do. So, no. I'm not seeing this, and I don't like the fact that, like, you keep making it, you keep making it look or sound as if, like, you did, because you didn't. That's why we were mad. The disrespect here is not just like that it was bad and it was a bad experience. No, that you, like, straight up showed us that you don't care about us, the lore fans. It's not just the experience of the visual novel that wasn't good enough and inconsistent. It's you didn't do the research because you didn't care. You did whatever you needed to do to sell whatever you wanted to sell, and then you shipped it. And what you're supposed to be saying is, yeah, maybe next time we shouldn't be thinking that way and should probably care about our other communities, which this can interest. Because world building is important, and having consistency within world building is important. And if you don't have the world, people just wouldn't care. Like, Arcane is a great example for that. How many people, like, fell in love with Arcane because of the storytelling and everything. The MMO that's supposed to be coming out in the future, like, that's all built on storytelling and world building. I don't care about the game. The event doesn't offend me. Whoever decided to make these choices offends me. So don't try to make it sound like, yeah, we care so much about the lore community, so we decided. No, whoever made the decisions didn't give a fuck. They didn't give a fuck. Wow. Okay. Champion inclusion and visual novel scope. We wanted the Sentinels to feel like a ragtag group of unlikely heroes from all over Runeterra that Lucian and Senna recruited by happenstance, rather than an ideal team carefully assembled over the course of years. While this premise works on paper, we weren't able to develop all the champions enough to succeed in practice. Even with only about a dozen main characters in Rise of the Sentinels, many of them felt like they were kind of just there. Players never really got the ragtag sense we intended, so the unlikely inclusions felt like bad fits. And champions who better fit Sentinels' ideas, example 𝗏𝗏, felt like conceptuous absence. In retrospect, the scope of global ruination was far beyond what we could deliver in a 5-10 hour visual novel. Most of the experience came in the form of dialogue between a handful of characters, which didn't lend itself well to a world-encompassing battle. For example, many of you wanted to know what the key leaders from the major regions, example Swain or Jarvan, were doing, even if they wouldn't realistically join up with the Sentinels. But if the Sentinels didn't directly encounter the leader, the visual novel didn't have the satisfying ways to include them. The global scope, but immense pressure to the story and roster as well, visiting every region and recruiting a Sentinel from each meant we couldn't spend too much time in any one region or include too many of its champions. The Shadow Isles suffered from this the hardest. Lore fans were left wondering about 𝗷𝗫𝗍𝗫, 𝗬𝗀𝗫𝗍𝗫, 𝗬𝗫𝗫𝗫, and 𝗬𝗪𝗫, who all have ties to the Ruination storyline, but were minor characters or absent entirely. Okay, first of all, they don't have ties to the Ruination. They are the Ruination. They're an integral part of the Ruined King story. Kalista is his niece. 𝗬𝗪𝗻 is his general. 𝗬𝗫𝗍𝗫 is the one who created the Shadow Isles, and 𝗷𝗫𝗫𝗍𝗫 is pretty much his nemesis who's supposed to bring him down with an army of ghouls. None of them are minor characters, and none of them have ties to the Ruination storyline. Now, going back to the 5 to 10 hour visual novel, yes, if that's what you planned, if you've planned a 5 to 10 hour visual novel, you should know that you shouldn't be, like, if you knew that in the first place, you shouldn't be expanding. You should be focusing on one thing, just like you did with Spirit Blossom. You focused on Ionia. You focused on Ionia, on like the supposed like demons and spirits that were in there, because that's not actually Thresh. And that was a great thing. But if you know that you don't have the budget or the time to create something as big as this, why bother? Why do it? Why do it in the first place? Again, every gaming company knows that. Like, that's the reason why so many characters were missed out of the Ruined King game. Because they knew that there's stuff that they'll have to cut and stuff that they'll have to focus on. So they had to focus on 𝗬𝗂𝗽 and flesh him out as a character, and they did an amazing job with that. And the only way they could kind of like fix it up or like try to like fluff it is by making the notes, the letters that we found, and basically what added to the story. So like we knew what was going on with these characters, like kind of like in a meanwhile thing, which by the way could have been a great thing to do here. They could have done a meanwhile in here as well. In this way, it wouldn't feel like you're just reading 3 sentences. But again, if you're saying that you have to 5 to 10 hours, then you can't do that. Because then everything, like every character loses. None of them have proper development. None of them are properly fleshed out. And then you get a mess. Also, like the whole like ragtag group of unlikely heroes, like I think we can all agree that Vayne could have not been there, and Riven could have been not there, and Pike and Rengar could have also not been comic reliefs. So again, we're going back to the X-Men Avengers kind of thing that they've mentioned in the past. Our takeaway is that metagames and visual novels can only go so far in paying off a big lore event. No! No! Absolutely not! Do I need to pull out all my visual novels? That is so untrue. You didn't have the budget, you didn't have the time, therefore you couldn't push it to the level that it should have been on the scale that you made it. So, visual novels can definitely do that. They can definitely pull it off. Japan has proved it, like, over and over and over again. So, that is not true. It's definitely not something that you should be going by. A feature like this can add color and detail to lore beats, like how the Council Archive supported Arcane, but it can't carry the entirety of a massive story by itself. Yes, it can. Yes, it can. If we had done a story smaller in scope, maybe only including a couple regions with a tighter and better developed cast of characters, we could have told a more satisfying slice of the overall whole. Dedicated storytelling mediums are better suited for broad-reaching narratives. If you can't afford making a big and like high quality visual novel, then don't do it. If that's how big you want the story to be, and you know that you can't keep up with it, don't do it. But it can be done. It can be done. It's not impossible. But I do agree. You should be focusing on like smaller regions and smaller short storytelling and whatnot. Like, definitely. But again, it's obvious. I don't understand. It's obvious. If you can't keep up with XYZ, then you should probably try something else, or like compensate with, I don't know, this, or just like it's not something that you should be having as a takeaway. It's something that is obvious in like project management. I would have never taken the risk of going into something that is way over my budget or like what I've planned. Why would you do that? Because this is exactly what happens after. That's exactly why Ruined King had postponed and like delayed their game, because there were some things that they needed to add and some things that they had to remove. And I completely understand that. But it's not, it didn't happen here. I feel like you didn't know what lore to focus on or what regions to focus on simply because you haven't read the lore. You could have done this without Noxus. You could have done this without Ionia. You could have simply focused on Bilgewater. Like, why Targon was there? Why Diana was there in the first place? Why did you add Pantheon? Why was Diana there? Like, both Diana and Pantheon can easily, like, 1v1 Viego and kill him. The fact that you didn't give them justice doesn't mean that in the lore, in the canon lore, the one that is up for interpretation, it wasn't like that. So this is not rockets. I really don't understand. Who decided on this? Then who decided this? Who thought this was a good idea and shipped it? Like, you have an entire team of narrative writers who had worked on this for a decade. An entire team of writers who helped making the Ruined King game. Like I said in my previous video, like, I don't see how someone will agree on Diana finding her people suddenly in a fucking cave on Targon after traveling the world for 30 years, when she's supposedly supposed to be in Ionia, where Nami and Aphelios are looking for her. Like, and Pantheon being ruined, like, that was a mess on its own. Like, again, you didn't care about the characters, you didn't care about reading the lore. You could have avoided all of this if you just read the stories! Because clearly you didn't! Riven shouldn't have been there. Irelia shouldn't have been there. Irelia shouldn't even be using her weapons because they're powered by the magic of Ionia. You want to make a ragtag team? Okay, make it make sense. But that's the thing. You brought in characters that you knew you could monetize. That was all. That's it. That's all you wanted. is to make an event where you can sell these skins, that you can sell these new champions that are about to be coming out. That's all it was. Pantheon characterization of mortal will to not be subdued really ruin him for me. Yeah. Yeah. The reason is money, to be honest. This is a 𝗵𝗵𝗱 excuse post. They looked at the Shadow Isle champion roster, saw no player base, so let's bring characters from outside. Honestly, you didn't bring any Shadow Isle characters because they're just not popular enough. Just say that. You said that before as well. You said that, like, the reason why you brought certain characters were because they were popular. And you wanted to bring some others that were unpopular to, like, kind of, like, even it out. But you didn't really do that because you didn't include any of the Shadow Isle champions in there. You could have literally removed anyone from that team and added Shadow Isle characters, and you didn't do it because you wanted to sell shit. So including Rookie, the player stand-in character was a tool we used in Spirit Bonds. And we used it again in Sentinels to give players a front seat to the action. Spirit Bonds made sense as an experience centered around your personal interactions because the Ionian spirits weren't pre-established. So you were literally meeting them for the first time during the event. Also, it was personal because it was like a dating simulator. That's why it was personal. Like I said, you could have completely, like, removed the Rookie from there. Because, like, you don't need him. Unlike Spirit Bonds, though, Rise of Sentinels was more about bringing the conclusion of the Ruination story to life. A story which for years had been told exclusively through champions you all have already gotten to know over the years. Routing the central perspective for the story through a new faceless Rookie felt like we were stealing the limelight from the roster and distracting from the connections between champions you expected. But you didn't give us any of the champions that were expected, that we learned the lore through over the years, because the story of the Ruined King was told through the exact characters that you decided not to incorporate into the event. This was exacerbated by dialogue choices often feeling formulaic and like they didn't lead to meaningful impact. What meaningful impact? There was no choices. There was no dialogue choices. I didn't choose. Like, it doesn't matter what I've chosen. It's like, I would have received the same outcome. Our takeaway is that the faceless players stand-in characters as a tool aren't something we should assume by default when developing visual novels, and that relationship building doesn't have to always be the focus of them. Some of you suggested, for example, that we could have told Rise of the Sentinels through Lucian's or Senna's eyes, which still would have given that front seat experience without feeling like a deviation from previous Ruination narratives. I mean, yeah. In general, you shouldn't have added the Rookie. I think that was the first thing that I noticed and the first thing that I said when I started playing this was that just because a dating simulator has this thing for visual novels can be different. So like taking the exact formula that you used for a dating simulator and trying to implement it into a super serious story where, like, you know, it's the end of the world, that wouldn't be a good idea. So you've done that before. You've told us these stories before like that. We had the entire Bilgewater event. You've done that before. Who was behind them? Who was behind this? Tone. Narratively, the Ruination was a bleak story. We wanted to add some lighthearted moments and jokes to ease some of the heaviness and tension, since Sentinels was a longer event. But it's clear that we leaned too heavily into comic relief. This created a couple of issues. First, players felt like there weren't enough serious or neutral responses to choose from with Rookie's dialogue choices. For these players, they prevented Rookie from accomplishing their role of feeling like a stand-in for the player. Second, the tone was inconsistent from one scene to the next. Sometimes the story was dead serious with very high stakes, but other times it was comedy hour. This made it hard to get feel for what kind of experience Rise of Sentinels was supposed to be. Third, it caused Rise of the Sentinels to under-deliver on the stakes and gravity of a global ruination, the first world-level threat we've introduced in current Runeterra. Our takeaway is that the tone needs to be more consistent across an event. When the storyline calls for it, we should be comfortable with things being a lot darker and more serious, with only small moments of comedy rather than the swathes of it. Do you not know your own lore fan base? Is that what you're saying? That you thought? Who is we? That's what I want to say. No. Who is we wanted to add some lighthearted moments and jokes to ease some of the heaviness and tension since Sentinels was a longer event? Who is we who wanted to do this? Because I'm pretty sure that a lot of the writers and the narrative team wouldn't have wanted to go this route. Because I've read their stories. I know their style of writing. Why did you think making it a lighthearted moment with jokes was a good idea for like a world-ending story? Like, yeah, of course, you can add some jokes here and there that can like match the situation, you know, like read the mood kind of thing. You know, not just like randomly shove comedic reliefs and dedicate entire characters just for that. Like, maybe if you didn't dedicate entire characters for that and would have just like thrown some jokes here and there, it could have been an option. You set the tone before. You set this. You set the tone. This is what you told us. This is what we waited for. This is what you've been building us up for. You had the Princeling's Lament that basically told the story. You had it all. You wrote this. You had it on a platter. But you just decided to take everything that you've made us read and get into and threw it out the window. You could have made it work. You could have. You did this before. You've done it. I'm not feeling anything that I'm reading here. I just feel like it's like, I feel like they're trying to sound relatable. As if they're like trying to tell you what you want to hear. After like reading YouTube comments and then congregating all of that. And making a whole post about it. Mischaracterized champions. A specific subpoint of the above is that some champions felt like they were being portrayed inaccurately. Specifically, some dialogue options elicited responses like, "My champion wouldn't say that." Several champions were called out on being too cartoonish, with 𝗬𝗪 as the biggest example and 𝗫𝗫 coming up a lot as well. The other frequently highlighted case of problematic characterization was Lucian in the early chapters. We wanted him to feel like his back was up against the wall because of the danger Senna was in, but he came off as cold, angry, and even cruel instead. Lucian literally made a deal with Thresh. The guy who murdered his wife and imprisoned her soul. And he was like, "Oh yeah, no, I hate you." And then like 2 minutes later, he was like, "Oh yeah, let's make a deal. 'Cause I'm totally gonna trust you." Trust me, that little like attitude Lucian had at the beginning of the story was the least of the mischaracterization of champions. No, that was not the right example to give, but okay, that's just me nitpicking at this point. Our takeaway is that even when we're layering event-specific context onto champions, they still need to feel true to the core of their previous characterizations. They'll feel unnatural if pushed too far. The previous takeaway regarding tone will also help here, as there'll be less pressure for us to use champions as vehicles to add levity where it wouldn't organically appear in the first place. They'll feel unnatural if pushed too far. What made you think that 𝗫𝗫 and 𝗬𝗪 are gonna feel natural when all they do is just not be themselves? Of course you can use champions as vehicles to add levity. We've done that with Braum in the Ruined King game. He did a great job of being himself. Just being himself. And adding to the relationship and dynamic that was going on between that ragtag group of random people. How is this happening when, like, on the other end, everything is fine? Like, how does Riot Forge manage to pull it off perfectly? But this is a total mess. And this is the story that supposedly happens after the Ruined King game. This is the sequel. Overly complex metagame systems. Rise of the Sentinels featured 10 Sentinels, each with one of the two progression mechanics depending on the order you recruited them in. The inclined hub sent players from the central chamber to character bio pages to the world map and to region maps. For many players, this complexity created too high of a barrier to really get into the event. As one particularly frustrating call out, some of you who played a ton of games in one sitting returned to the Sentinels hub to find that much of your progression was lost because you unknowingly completed a region partway through the session and didn't know you had to choose another region to keep earning points. Oh, right. Yeah, that happened to me. That really sucked. That was really annoying. Our takeaway is to streamline the design of future metagames, both mechanically and in terms of interface and experience. This doesn't mean less metagame content overall, just the metagame content needs to be less confusing to an experience. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Looking forward, Sentinels of Light was the capstone to our first multi-month story arc. Our first big immersive lore event on PC in years. And our first lore event across multiple products at Riot. While there were a lot of things that could have been better, we do think there were things that went well. We're still happy to have launched an event at the same tier scale as Spirit Blossom, including Ultimate Spellbook, our first new event game mode in years, and our first coordinated champion release across 4 Riot games at once. Though it's a little cliche to say, the sheer amount of feedback we heard from you and the depth and care reflected in much of that feedback proved to us that there is an appetite for us to do more with League's universe and champions. Lore events in League of Legends are not dead. Huzzah. We hope this post encourages those of you who were let down by Sentinels and that our takeaways line up with that you'd like to see us do better next time. See you all in 2022. I wouldn't say that's their first big immersive lore event on PC, because we still had Bilgewater. Burning Tides was an amazing event. And you went as far as to kill a whole ass fucking champion to make it that extra. You went that far. You killed off Gangplank to make a point. It's just whoever was working on those events in the past read the lore and cared more about the experience and the storytelling than the money making. I don't like any of it. I'm like, my chest feels heavy. Like, I do not like this post. Their takeaways are valid, but it's the takeaways that they have done already in the past with other events, and takeaways that are obvious and shouldn't have thought about and done before. Like, it's not like it's something super complex. Make a story consistent. Next time we're going to make the story consistent because this time it was inconsistent. But we made this whole game for the lore fans. Do you see the back and forths here? How everything is contradicting everything. Like, I'm just happy that they got to the point where they said lore events in League of Legends are not dead. That small part makes me feel like they got so much shit for fucking this event up because they didn't care about the lore. They didn't care about the lore. They cared about the money making. They cared about, you know, the revenues and the skins and everything. And because of that, because of the backlash they received, because we're not stupid, we're the consumers, we're not stupid. Especially the lore fans. Now they're like, oh, well, after this massive fuck up, we realize the League of Legends lore is not dead. Wow, apparently it has a really massive following. And there are a bunch of people who actually do care about the lore of Runeterra. Therefore, we can't treat future events like the lore doesn't matter. That's what this is. Yeah. I like they give reasoning behind the decisions, even if they were flawed. I mean, yeah, they were called out on it. They have to make an explanation about that. And they've already did enough damage on Reddit with lying and gaslighting. So, you know, after lying and gaslighting for that long on Reddit, the only choice they have right now is to own to the fact that they fucked up. And they have to fix it. I just don't like the way they went about it, saying that like, oh yes, it was inevitable. We didn't know. We, all of us, everyone at Riot didn't know that this might be an issue. All of us agreed on everything that was going on in this event. All of us. Yeah, including the narrative writers that we fired. Yeah. Everyone. This is like really, really awkward damage control. Like, thank you for making a post about it. And like, again, like, they just make it feel, they make it sound as if no one was aware of what was happening. And like, all the choices were collective choices. And that like, everyone's at fault. Not the management who had greenlighted this and pushed this. And I'm not buying it. Because I have the receipts. I have all the receipts. We are fine with the story being told in different ways, styles, and expressions by different teams' products. You were fine with it. Why were you fine with it? The visual novel tells it in more of a lighthearted way, whereas if we told the same story fully in CG form, we would probably tell it in a darker, grittier way. In other words, yes, the main story beats that happen in the visual novel are canon. Same with the CG comics. The story beats and every single exact line characters say isn't specifically canon. We felt we could make a great story with champions that made sense from both a narrative and champion popularity resonance angle. But then he says, to me, that just leads to better storytelling. So who are these people? Who are all these teams that agreed upon this? And now we're making this congregated long story and post about how Oh yes, all of us were aware of this fuck-ups, and all of us apologize for doing this because none of us thought through any of these options. Especially as an event that was made for the hardcore lore lovers. So, thanks for writing this, but I honestly don't want to hear it from you. I don't want to hear it from you. I want to hear it from the other team. I want to hear the team's perspective on this. They were fine with it until the feedback. Exactly. Everything was fine. Everything was perfect. Every idea was just like chef's kiss up until the feedback came, and they're like, oh, looks like the hardcore lore lovers are not really into that after all. I wonder why. Oh wait, you don't care about the hardcore lore fans. Forgot. Yeah, I want to hear the team's perspective. We have different teams working on different things. We had 4 different stories. Why were there 4 teams working on 4 different stories and telling the main story in 4 different ways to match their own thing in the first place? As a writer, you would go insane. You have to rewrite a whole story several times. And for what? For a champion? You already had Yorick. Why did you bring Akshan? Why did Akshan become the main character and the guy who defeats Viego and resurrects the others when you already had Yorick? I mean, if you would have done that for the hardcore lore lovers, you would have known that that's what we would have wanted. We didn't know who Akshan was. Nobody cared about Akshan being part of the story. Halfway through the thing, you added Gwen, who didn't have nearly enough impact as the other Shadow Isle characters. But that's the thing, you didn't do it because you cared about the lore fans. You did it because you want to sell Akshan. You did it because you wanted to save Vayne. You did it because you want to sell Pantheon, and Riven, and Rengar, and Olaf, and Gwen. Some of the characters who were in the story weren't even in the cinematics. They weren't even, like, you didn't even incorporate them at the end of the thing. We didn't even see, like, where was Diana at the final battle? Where'd she go? Where was Olaf? Where's everyone? If they were that important and that integral and weren't there just to sell skins, and you put them in there because we wanted to make an event for lore fans. This didn't answer any of my questions. The only thing it gave us is the fact that we know that whoever was in management got roasted so hard that they were pretty much forced to write these takeaways. It's like stuff like, you know, it's like obvious stuff, like, you know, how you're like teaching a child, like a really, really spoiled child, like you're not allowed to like steal. Like, what did you learn from it? I learned that I shouldn't be stealing. Even though it's pretty obvious that I shouldn't be stealing. But now I've made it canon. Now everybody knows that I know that I shouldn't be stealing. I really don't like, I really don't understand like the takeaways from this, really. Like, it's basic storytelling, basic management, basic event building. Like, it's the basic of the basic. That it's like, it's stuff that you should already know. And I'm sure, again, because you have done that in the past with the Bilgewater event, you have done that already. The big bosses didn't want that because they wanted to make money. And that's it. That was their top priority. The main takeaway from this is listen to your narrative teams. That should be the takeaway. Your takeaway is to shut the fuck up and let the narrative teams do their fucking job. That's literally all you gotta do. Then when it comes to like budgeting and dividing the work and having a work plan, that's on you as the manager. Sure, you can intervene in the writer team's job when you feel like they're going, you know, a little too far with their ideas. And then you're trying to like kind of like more congregate it and break it all together so it won't be like all over the place. But you thought it was a good idea to make it an X-Men/Avengers bullshit. It was you. It was not the narrative team. And you said it in your Reddit posts. It was your way of storytelling, not the narrative teams. Stop throwing the narrative team under the fucking bus. If you can't commit to a big scale project like that, don't do it. Or find someone who knows how to manage it. Yeah. That was very, underwhelming. Better own game like the Ruined King game. The Ruined King game was a masterpiece. And it was done with a company that went far and beyond with their research Do you know how much lore research Airship Syndicate did to make it as perfect as possible? How many stories they've read, how many videos they've watched. They had done their research. Something that they have failed to do. It's your own world. It's your own product. It's something that you should care about and cherish and push forward, because storytelling is the strongest thing you have. League of Legends as a game is dying. Every pro player is hating it. You have built one of the most toxic communities. Your way of survival is keeping and building around the communities that are considered to be niche communities. You think I'm recommending League of Legends to anyone? No, I recommend their Legends of Runeterra. If you want to get into lore, Legends of Runeterra. Forget about League of Legends. You don't need it. Why would you need it? It's just mind-blowing to me that a company outside of Riot cared more about their RP than Riot themselves. Yeah. I love how the other company researched for the whole storyline just to make the game so good, while Riot is just slapping those famous champs on the story to gain money. Whenever I hear someone who watched Arcane say, we want to try League of Legends now, I'm like, yeah, don't. Yeah, straight up. Same. Same. I'm afraid about what this means for the MMO. I'm not worried about an MMO. Because if we have Riot Forge working on their project and you have an example of how it should be done, then you can learn from that. When you have a game like Legends of Runeterra that have already pre-built this whole world for you, and all you gotta do is copy-paste it and render it into your world, shouldn't be an issue. And also keep in mind that, like, when they're gonna start the MMO, they're not there to sell you champions and skins. At least not yet. That would come later. As Nikki Boy said, League of Legends has passed its time as a MOBA and must expand to other genres. Yes, definitely, and that's exactly what it's doing, and it's doing it great. Good luck competing against Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy has its own story and its own community. I don't see a reason for another MMO to flourish. I mean, sure, you have Final Fantasy, but then you have like Terra, and you got Aeon, you have Warcraft, or whatever was left of that now, with all the Blizzard shenanigans. Are you worried that the MMO might have its own canon? I am worried about that. I'm really worried about that. I don't mind it having its own story, but I don't want them to create a new story and sacrificing everything else that they have done so far. That's what I'm really worried about. They brutalized the trust and respect, so I feel like I'll always be skeptical. Yeah. That's kind of how I feel. After being gaslit and lied to, I'm like super skeptical. That's why, like, going into like reading this, I was already like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it. Because I've seen what you had to say about that on Reddit. Like, I've read it all, Sugar Blossom. I have the receipts. I have a folder full of them. I've read it. I know. So anything that you're gonna say now is just an outcome of a whoops. We gotta patch up the damage that we have done. We kind of like own up to it. Dinka's scoldings are always so intense. I would be terrified to receive one. Do you think that Mordekaiser will get a VN like the Sentinels of Light and maybe an event too? I mean, we didn't really get into like anything super extra with Noxus besides like the Noxian Ionian War, but they've been like hinting a lot of like LeBlanc and like, what are you? Or what is she? You know, like there was that right now interaction with Zed and LeBlanc when he says to her like, I don't know what you are. You know, and like it doesn't even talk to her as if like she's a human. It's like it's super sus. So LeBlanc is strongly tied to Mordekaiser because she was the one who resurrected him in the first place and was the one who banished him the second time. Yeah. So I have a feeling that eventually we'll get like a really, really cool, dark story. Especially with Swain and Raum as well. Naoki Yoshida always said he wants people to play other games. Love that guy. I hope they give the MMO the same passion they gave Arcane. Yeah. But that's years of work. Just like with Arcane. It took Arcane like what, 6 years? Yeah. I'm really interested if you even can play champions in the MMO. I think you'll be able to like choose your own character. Unless like in the, because I don't think they're gonna put like 150 different champions in there. I think it's gonna be more of like a race thing. And then you're going to interact with the champions within the game. But you won't be playing as the characters themselves. You can maybe like look like them cosmetically, but you won't be actually them. Unless they're gonna have some like weird DLCs where you can like, I don't know, have like side quests where you're like playing as those characters or some stuff. Have you seen the interactions of Pantheon for lore? Yes, I have. Yep. I got back to League and I actually enjoyed kinda. Yeah, I haven't played League in months. The only time I play League is for work. When I need to like record gameplay. I'm trying to like, I'm waiting for the new season to come in so I'll be able to move my account from EUNI to EU West. And then I plan on doing some really funny stuff with me playing League. Yeah, I have plans. I hope that you guys will like it. Have I played Horizon Zero Dawn? No, I didn't get to it. I have the game, but I didn't get to it. And I don't think I should be playing it for like, for you guys to watch because it's like, I mean, I feel like everybody already played that game. So if I play it, I should be playing it on my own time. Kind of like how I'm doing with Fair right now, Spiritfarer. I wish they would let the narrative team release stories to make a canon story for the Ruination. No lineup changes, but just make it more coherent somehow. The problem, like, I would want that too, but the problem with that is that you are now expecting the writers to be focusing on a story that has been already over, which means that they can't focus on the new project that's supposed to come out. And Riot, as a company, they plan out their projects like years into the future. So like lore-wise, they already know what's happening like in the next 2 to 3 years. And the problem with that is that if they will be stuck on the Sentinels of Light, they won't be able to focus on those other stories. I would definitely want them. I don't mind them taking a break from everything and just focusing on that, so we'll have like a proper story, so we'll know where we're going, where we're aiming for after that. But for now, I think we're not going to hear from the Shadow Isles for a really, really, really long time, which is really, really sad, because that means that we won't see any of the Shadow Isle champions in years to come. So yeah. Who do you think will be the next big villain in the lore? I mean, it depends on the region. If they're going into the Freljords, we know that it's like the biggest danger is Lysandra and the Watchers, and the fact that she's taking control of Trundle's trolls and basically making this hive mind out of his trolls without him even knowing about it, to start a war. And Noxus, I'd say that their biggest danger is definitely Daddy Kaiser, who's there, and whose biggest fucking danger, he's literally there under the Immortal Bastion, and if he's released, like, it's gonna be like a game over. 𝗬𝗫𝙪𝙦 is having a moment right now, unless Kael and Morgana decide to come back at some point. But then if you read the novella, the Garen novella, then you would know, spoiler alert, that LeBlanc was involved in trying to take over a 𝗬𝗫𝙪cian, it wasn't like a 𝗬𝗫𝙪cian town, but it was like a town that was friends with 𝗬𝗪cia for like the longest time, and she managed to like trick everyone there and basically fuck with them, and tried to bring war masons, like Noxian war masons, to get through that gate and get to 𝗬𝗪cia. So Noxus wanted to already attack 𝗬𝗪cia. With Shurima, it's the Void, so like the Void is bubbling. We just got another story with our boy 𝗃𝗁𝗃? No, not 𝗃𝗁𝗃's. Malzahar, there we go. With Malzahar, and yeah, like every place has its own thing, so it really depends on where we're going. Mom risking her LPP, though, say what needs to be said. I stan. First of all, I don't feel like I'm risking my LPP because I'm saying the truth. And I already said that before, right? Like, I've said that, like, I am not willing to have the LPP if I'm going to be censored. That's something that I've already put out there in the first place. Like, if I'm going to be censored, I'm not doing this. So I'm not censoring myself. I'm passionate about this game. I care about this game. I care about the world building. I care about the workers. I care about everyone who's behind this. But I will call out people who are damaging this thing that I love. And our feedback, whether it's me, whether it's Skyn, whether it's Neckert, whether it's Nikki, you know, it works. People listen to us. I've received plenty of private messages from rioters about what I said in my last video, in my open letter. So, like, I know that what I'm doing is the right thing to do, and I will stand behind it. And, like, if that means that I'll lose LPP, then I'll lose my LPP. Okay, well, it was good as long as it lasted. What region do I want to explore next? Honestly, Freljord. I really want to see what's happening with Lysandra. Like, of course, Noxus, but, like, I love the Freljord as well as much as I love Noxus, so everything is a lot more established there already. Like, they should already be on the brink of war at this point. Lore nerds assemble. Yeah. So a bunch of us really nerdy lore fans coming in together. I hope that what I said was not too harsh. I don't think it's harsh. Like, a lot of what I've just read made no sense to me. Because it was all kind of like a given. And it felt more like damage control and reassuring the fans that from now on we are going to focus more about the lore and are going to do our research. But like, besides that, I didn't like the tone. I didn't like the way that this all was described, and like all tried to be like hide behind this like mask of, oh yes, we wanted to do what's best for you, but you know, out of the goodness and, you know, of our hearts, it just didn't work as we planned. And it's like, did you plan? Did you care about us? Really? Doubt. Yeah. So if anyone watched this and got super mad about it, like, I don't know what to tell you. Sorry, not sorry. People need to also remember that the ones that thought about the Ruination event is not the entirety of Riot. Right, yeah. Again, there were like a lot of teams, but there's a lot of we and I going on when it comes to this. So it's like when the good things show up, it's like, oh yes, it was all my idea. I was the one who thought it through. But then when the backlash comes in, it's like, oh wait, no, we did this. It was our collective choice and decision. And it's like, it wasn't, though. It wasn't. I'm sorry. It seems like the next big story will be the second Noxian invasion on Ionia. Yasuo saving Riven, Zed and Aurelia gathering people together to fight for their land. Yeah, I think that's kind of like where it's gonna aim towards. I just like, I'm kind of like, I just want to move on to a different region at this point because we've had so much going on with that. Yeah. It would be nice to have a Targon event at some point, which I know not gonna happen anytime soon because half of these characters, we don't even know what's happening with them. But yeah, hopefully that's gonna be it. But yeah, guys, I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining in. I read through the thing. I have said what I had to say. And next time that I'm going to stream, I'll be doing that on my gaming channel. So if you haven't followed me on my gaming channel yet, go check it out. I have left a link to that in the main channel page of mine. Yeah, so it's just 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 Gaming, so you can just find that. And I want to do... before I do that, I'm probably gonna do another live here on this channel where I'm doing an arcane tier list because I really wanted to do that. So I'm gonna do an arcane tier list and then I'm gonna choose a game for us to play. And obviously I'm gonna make a poll so you guys can choose it. Keep in mind that I'm not a YouTube member yet. For me to become a YouTube member on my gaming channel, I need to have 1,000 followers and over 4,000 minutes of view time, and I haven't really streamed there at all yet. So I need to start streaming there, and then once I'm gonna be able to do that, I'll be able to share, give you emotes, so you'll be able to use emotes, and I'll have a community page where you can see my messages, and I can make polls over there instead. So yeah. A lot of going on. Also, for those who are wondering about part 2 and 3 of the Arcane series, I'm sorry it's been taking so long. I had to rewrite it several times, and then obviously the Ruined King came out, so I had to do that, and then like I got an inflammation in my entire arm, so I'm trying to do it as much as I can. Right now, for just like the second video that I'm supposed to do of like Arc 2, I have written 11 pages and I'm not done yet. So you can imagine how much writing I've been doing for one arc video and how much editing and filming I'll have to do afterwards. So yeah, sorry about that. I'm trying my best to do everything as fast as possible, and I hope that I'll be able to finish everything until the end of the year. I really hope I'll be able to do that. So yeah, still salty my Dinka's dungeon suggestion didn't win. Yo, I wanted to go for Dinka's dungeon, but it's gonna be really weird to be calling it Dinka's dungeon and have like 14-year-olds follow me there. You know what I mean? Because I know that there are kids here who follow me as well for some reason, okay? And I don't want them to follow Dinka's dungeon because it's really sus, really weird and awkward and just, yeah. No. Welcome to my candy house, children. Woo. Yeah, no, that is a little too weird, even for me. But yes, I did consider it for a really, really long while. And there was also someone who suggested, Kinky Dinky. Yo, Kinky Dinky was like stuck in my head for like a whole 2 weeks. I had Kinky Dinky stuck in my head and I was like, yo, that is genius. But eventually, like, I went with everyone, like, with everything that everybody else said. And majority were going for Dinka's Dungeon, but also 𝗬𝗪𝙂 Gaming, which I chose eventually and made a whole logo for, yeah. So yeah, anyway, I love how I'm just like, I keep talking even though I'm supposed to end the stream. But I love your faces. Thank you for the massive support. If you're not following me on my social medias, you should do that. And I'll see you again probably next week on another stream where I'll be doing an arcane tier list, which I'm sure you guys are gonna be very, very excited about. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.